She didn't saw what's happening. That's how she called that record. She was running in the back of me. She pulled on the other side, and that's not in it.
So, but the charger was coming right at you,
Right,
correct? And that's why you had to slam on your brake, head on with you. So yeah, just make sure you include that, and that's very important because we're trying to locate this charger right now. So just include that in the statement, and I'll read it over, and then I'll be out of here.
At the time of impact,
We've learned a former LSU wide receiver who was facing criminal charges in Louisiana died during a police pursuit right here in Houston. Now here's what the Harris County Sheriff's Office is telling us.
you can clearly hear the suggestive nature indicating that I need you to say that you had to slam on your brakes and you had to avoid a charger.
Okay, just make sure you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes, and the brakes, like, you know, you had to slam on the brakes to avoid that charger, and the brakes locked up to avoid that charger. That's
How does someone end up blamed for a fatal crash when they never even hit anybody? That's the terrifying story of Kyren Lacy, a promising young athlete who was shoved into one of the ugliest controversies in college football and then vanished from the headlines in the most devastating way possible. For months, the public was told he caused a deadly wreck. Media outlets broadcasted his face like he was a criminal. Online trolls labeled him things no two-year-old ever deserves. But just days ago, newly uncovered footage flipped the entire story upside down, and what's on that body cam is way darker than anyone expected.
But then you hear Gold Truck, the witness who's the Gold Truck, what he says. And he says verbatim.
I ain't skid mark or nothing. I wasn't even going for it. That lady in the back of me, she didn't saw what's happening. That's how she called that record. She was running in the back of me. She pulled on the other side, and that's not in it.
I didn't skid marked or nothing because I wasn't even going that fast.
This wasn't an accident, it was a setup. And by the time the truth came out, it was already too late. Before the headlines, before the hashtags, before the accusations changed everything, Kyren Lacy was just a kid chasing dreams. Born and raised in Louisiana, he wasn't some overnight social media star or TikTok sensation, he worked for it. On high school fields under Friday night lights. In locker rooms that smelled like sweat, pressure, and purpose. Coaches loved him, teammates respected him. And by the time LSU brought him onto one of the biggest stages in college football, people knew this kid had something special. He wasn't flashy in interviews, he didn't stir drama or chase clout. Lacy was the kind of player you root for, a low-key grinder who let his game speak loud enough for everyone. Standout stats? Sure. Big plays? Of course. But bigger than that was his presence, the kind of mindset schools fight over. Tough, quiet, focused, rooted in faith and family. And like every college athlete trying to find his way, he wasn't perfect. But he wasn't a problem either. No criminal history, no off-field red flags, no headlines. Until the day one car crash changed everything.
that you just.
All right, me and my wife gonna figure out right.
Okay, just make sure you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes, and the brakes, like, you know, you had to slam on the brakes to avoid that charger, and the brakes locked up to avoid that charger. That's.
I ain't skid mark or nothing. I wasn't even going for it. That lady in the back of me.
Within hours, his name was being connected to a fatal wreck. Within days, he was publicly labeled a suspect in something so out of character, so disconnected from who he was, that people who actually knew him didn't believe it. But the damage was done. In an instant, Kyren became something else in the public eye, a name attached to tragedy, without evidence, without proof, and without a voice loud enough to stop what was coming. He went from a future NFL hopeful to a criminal headline. And if you think that happened by mistake, keep watching, because the story they told wasn't the truth. The crash happened fast, just another moment on the road that would ripple out into headlines, arrests, and irreversible consequences. A woman had died. There was chaos and confusion. But out of all the drivers on that highway that day, somehow the spotlight fell on Kyren Lacy. Police reports said he fled the scene. Media outlets echoed claims of negligent homicide and felony hit and run. The name Kyren Lacy was suddenly everywhere, but not for touchdowns or game stats.
Looks like the impact happens, and then Kyren Lacy is behind him. How far away was he from there?
Well, yeah, that's the beauty of the investigative report that I now have my hands on. We know from data that Kyren Lacy did in fact pass 4 cars. There's no disputing that. Further north, Kyren Lacy passed 4 cars. However, he was back in his lane of travel, 92.3 yards. Back in his lane, behind Mr. Hall. At the time of impact, he's 72.6 yards behind the vehicles at the time of impact. Keyword, behind the vehicles. That is not how this story was ever painted, never.
Now, it was being plastered next to the words suspect, criminal, and chillingly killer. What made it worse? Most people never questioned it. No one stopped to ask how a rising athlete with no record, no motive, and no direct involvement ended up facing charges so deadly serious they could ruin any life, let alone one built on football, discipline, and dreams. The public saw the story unfold in tweets, headlines, and viral clips stripped of nuance, dripping in speculation. It didn't matter that the evidence was unclear. It didn't matter that Kyren had told people he was nowhere near the actual collision. The narrative had momentum. And once a story like that starts rolling downhill, it doesn't stop. At least not until someone gets crushed. As far as the justice system was concerned, Kyren was already guilty. Mugshots were circulating. Online forums didn't hesitate to play judge and jury. He was being treated like he was behind the wheel of the car that took a life, even though he wasn't even close. But at the time, almost no one knew that. And the people who could have cleared things up, they stayed silent. Or worse, they helped spin the story that would eventually lead to disaster. From the outside, it looked like an open and shut case, a fatal crash, a young athlete's car in the area, and a system all too ready to point the finger. But what wasn't shown? What wasn't said in the headlines? That's where the real story begins to unravel, and what comes out is almost impossible to believe. Recently released traffic data and surveillance footage revealed something no one in law enforcement made public at the time. At the exact moment of impact, the moment another car slammed into the victim, Kyren Lacy's vehicle was over 70 yards behind, 72.6 yards to be exact. That's nearly the length of a football field. You can't cause a collision at that distance. You can't even touch another car. Yet, police reports made it seem like he drove straight into it. And here's what's even crazier. Lacy had already passed a different car earlier in the drive, then safely merged back into his lane, cruising along at a normal pace. No sudden jerks, no aggressive movements, just another driver on the highway. Nothing about his behavior pointed to danger. Yet, somehow, when the wreck happened ahead of him, he became the prime suspect. That detail that he never made contact with anyone should have cleared his name almost instantly. But it didn't just get ignored, it felt like it was being buried. Quietly left out of headlines, skipped over in updates, omitted from the narrative completely. And when details like that disappear, you have to ask, was it just negligence? Or was someone trying to shape a story? The truth was hiding in plain sight, but the real bombshell, the smoking gun, came from a police officer's own body cam. And what he said? That's when this story turns from a tragedy into something way more disturbing. By now, it was already bad a young athlete wrongfully blamed, evidence ignored, reputation shattered. But when the body cam footage surfaced, everything about the case changed. Not because it told a different story, but because it showed someone trying to rewrite it in real time. In the video, a police officer is seen interviewing a witness at the scene, a man who had been involved in the crash. And right off the bat, it becomes clear the officer isn't just asking what happened. He's telling the witness what to say. Just make sure you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes to avoid that charger. That's very important. Wait, what? The man hesitates. He starts explaining what he actually saw, that a woman rear-ended him, not a charger. But the officer cuts him off and comes back again with the same line. Just include that you slammed your brakes to avoid the charger. That's what we're trying to locate right now. This isn't subtle. This isn't procedural. It looks like a deliberate effort to frame the story to nudge a statement into fitting a narrative that had already been decided. And just like that, the truth gets bent. But it doesn't stop there. The witness, clearly shaken, pushes back. He says he never even braked hard. He says it was the driver behind him who caused the collision. But that didn't matter. The officer kept steering the conversation back to Kyren's charger. Why? Because he had a name, a car, a college football legacy. He fit. He was convenient. What that body cam showed wasn't just police pressure, it showed manipulation. And once you hear what else they left out, you realize this wasn't just bad policing. It was a setup. Once the body cam footage made its way online, things started clicking into place, and none of it was good. The more you looked, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about a crash. It was about control, perception, and who gets painted as guilty before the facts even come out. Let's call it what it is. Kyren Lacy was targeted. Not because there was real evidence, not because there were witnesses pointing to him, but because he was easy to profile, young, black, successful, and driving a flashy car through the South. In a place like Louisiana, that still carries weight. And not the kind you think. This wasn't the first time something like this happened, and it won't be the last. Ask anyone familiar with Louisiana's law enforcement history. Local cops there aren't just known for being aggressive, they're known for picking targets. And the targets are almost always the same kind of profile. Talented, wealthy, outspoken, or simply trying to make it out. And then came the media. Online accounts, some of which looked like AI bots, were pushing headlines calling Kyren a killer. Sports blogs started treating his arrest like breaking news, without fact-checking. Anonymous Twitter pages posted horrifying jokes and memes about the crash. People who'd never spoken to him once were suddenly playing moral judge online. What made it worse? No one bothered to correct it when the truth came out. There were no apology tweets, no viral retractions, just silence. Silence from the same public that helped push this kid into a mental state most of us couldn't even imagine surviving. And for Kyren, it didn't stop at the memes. There was more pain coming, and it would cost him everything. Imagine waking up one day and finding the world calling you a murderer. Your face trending across social media. Your name turned into hashtags you never asked for. Your dreams, years of work and sacrifice dismissed with a viral clip and a headline that doesn't care about context. Now imagine trying to live through that, knowing the truth the whole time, but watching nobody believe it. That's what happened to Kyren Lacy. He wasn't just dealing with legal pressure, he was facing social annihilation. A young athlete barely in his early 22s suddenly found himself at the center of a storm that no college playbook could prepare him for. And the tragedy is, he never got a chance to clear his name before it broke him. As the false narrative spread, Kyren became isolated. Public opinion flipped on him with violent speed. Online abuse poured in. People he didn't even know posted memes of the wreck, called him out, dragged him, laughed while quietly. The facts showed he did nothing wrong. And eventually, he couldn't take it anymore. Reports confirmed that just months after the accusations surfaced, Kyren took his own life. A young man with everything ahead of him, family, talent, opportunity gone. And the worst part? It never had to happen. If the truth had come out earlier, if the footage had surfaced in time, if just one person with a platform had said, "Wait, let's look at the facts," maybe this could have ended differently. But by the time the real story surfaced, Kyren was already gone, not even cleared by the system that helped break him. Just another victim of a machine designed to punish loudly and apologize in silence. You might be thinking it's over now, the facts are out, the footage is public, the narrative flipped. Justice, right? Not even close. Because the truth didn't come out when Kyren Lacy was alive. It came out after he was already gone, too late to fix the damage, too late to give him peace, and too late to restore everything that was stolen from him. And that's exactly why this story still matters now. Because if it could happen to someone with visibility, a platform, a name, imagine what's happening to people who don't have any of that. To the ones without body cam footage, without social media pressure, without anyone paying attention. And the scariest part? This wasn't a hidden conspiracy. It happened in front of body cams on official reports and got amplified by people online who never looked at the evidence. That's how easy it is to destroy someone with just one assumption. Lacy's case isn't just the story of one wrongfully blamed athlete. It's a warning, a flashing red light about the power of viral misinformation, about how fast the internet can punish and how rarely it corrects, about how law enforcement can plant stories and how media machines will run with it even if it's dead wrong. They told the world Kyren caused a fatal crash. They left out that he was 92 yards back, out of danger, out of contact, and completely innocent. They let the world believe a lie, and when the truth came out, nobody said a thing. So why does it matter now? Because this time, you saw everything. The story of Kyren Lacy isn't just heartbreaking, it's revealing. It shows what happens when truth gets buried under public perception, when narratives get pushed faster than facts, and when someone becomes a target before they ever have a chance to speak. He was a young man, promising athlete, and by every account, someone who didn't deserve what happened to him. But what took him down wasn't a crash. It was the shame, the weight, the silence, and the system that failed him. Police built a case on an image, not on evidence. Media ran with it. Social media weaponized it. And when Kyren broke under the pressure, no one stood up, not until he couldn't hear them anymore. The saddest part? Even after clear proof surfaced footage, distance data, conflicting witness accounts, there still hasn't been accountability. No major outlet issued retractions. No law enforcement officer came forward to apologize. No viral tweet reversed the damage. They just moved on. And that's the biggest issue of all. When the lie is louder than the truth, who really pays the price? Kyren did. So now, all we can do is put the truth back where it belongs in the open. Exposed, undeniable. Not for clout, not for clicks. But because stories like this will keep happening unless people start asking better questions, unless we stop rushing to judgment. Kyren didn't get justice in life, but he deserves truth in death. And it starts with people like you refusing to look away and choosing to tell the real story.